It'd be the easiest thing in the world for me to come up here and make an impassioned populist address on this motion. But I believe this issue is far, far too serious to be treated as tightly as that. What is PAYE? It's a tax on your earnings and kicks in at the higher rate at around 33,000 plus. What's PRSI? It's a tax on which you pay, which you receive minimal, if indeed any, benefits during your working life. What's the universal social levy? It's a third tax, and you're already hard-earned but rapidly disappearing wages. What's the pension-related levy? It's tax number 4, totally unrelated to your pension, but which punish you especially for serving the state and working in the public service. And on the way home, when you pull into the fuel station, the exorbitant tax on your petrol and diesel, and your €500 a year plus car tax should be enough, and all the road tolls should be enough to keep the roads network. When you get home in the evening, the postman will have popped a letter from Revenue through your letterbox reminding you to pay your property tax. What property? The majority of us here own nothing, except we aspire to own the roof over our heads, which is basically a house, a shelter from the elements. This is in reality a house or a shelter tax.
If you think the way this government has gone after people getting the property tax out of their pockets and their wages, how the powers that they gave Revenue, and compare that to the lack of enthusiasm of getting tax from these wealthy people, you can actually see that we have right on our side. We can convince people that we need to mobilise around this issue. The amount of tax coming in and what's being spent on public services is balanced. It balanced early last year. We're not in a deficit anymore. Now, it's time for us, not us, but maybe our leaders, to get up off their arses. I have absolutely full faith in some of them doing it. But I think that, for example, Ireland, in a league of percentage of its population that has millionaires, is 15th in the world. There is wealth in this country. However, because of the policies of the previous government, and this government, and disgracefully Labour, instead of going after that wealth, which now we know is there, they're letting them off scot-free.
And the fact is that low and middle-income earners in this country are being skinned and screwed, and nobody is shouting stop. So I say to this union executive, give leadership. Deal with the real issues that affect real people. Initiate and start a national campaign to have a fair, just, simplified tax system across the board. Get rid of quadruple tax deductions from our already savaged wages. And if we pay taxes to local authorities, we must have proper public services provided by them in return.
Ireland's richest 300 people are getting richer. In 2012, the wealth increased by 16 billion. It's absolutely, purely natural that our members feel despondent at the moment. And this, you get it everywhere. So what good will it do? Don't you? You get it, it's there. And it's a real attitude that we need to confront. And I think there's a number of arguments coming together, a number of realities coming together that will help us confront in the workplace, on our branch committees, in our buildings, that attitude.
Colleagues, we've always supported reform of the Irish tax system. And indeed, in the context of the Haddington Road Agreement and the talks that led to the prior rejection of the Croke Park 2 process, we made it very clear publicly that we were in favour of a third tax rate for higher paid who could afford it, for a real wealth tax in this country, for the sort of wealth that Terry Callagher spoke about earlier, for a proper financial transaction tax on corporate transactions, and Nadia spoke about that earlier as well. There's been a conspiracy of silence in relation to the tax system in this country. And oftentimes the argument is brought down to the simplistic requirement to reduce taxes to a point where you impact on public services very severely. And when you impact on public services, you also impact on the very jobs that are in this room today and in the wider public service. It's a proper reform of the Irish tax system that's required, and there's a need to spread that pain, spread that tax load right across all of the different sectors in this country that can afford it. Thank you, colleagues.
I get a certain difference in mood at this conference than the previous conferences. A certain settling of the emotional dust, of the anger that we have naturally felt about how we've been treated, and more of a thirst for ideas about actually, now that we've screamed and shouted and we've tried to do certain things and we've been let down, particularly by other unions, leaderships, and ICTU, how actually do we deal with this agenda that we're facing? Forget the hurrah. How do we learn the lessons of the last particularly couple of years?
Delegates, since the rollout of Croke Park 1 and the Haddington Road Agreement, public and civil servants have been hit financially time and time again through pay cuts, levies, property tax, extra working hours, and the gradual depletion of our working benefits, the few we had. Since 2008, we have paid to put this country back on its feet. It's time now for this country to pay the favour. Now is the time to organise ourselves and to begin talking again. Only this time we'll be doing the talking and the government will be doing the listening. Please support this motion. Thank you.
Thanks, Trish. Have I any speakers to the motion?